I was thinking.
All right, good to go, Simon.
Okay, everyone, good afternoon or good morning, depending on what side of the country you're calling in from. My name's Simon from Disability and Employment Australia, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn session, which is titled Work Well, Live Well, Mental Health and Meaningful Employment. Before we get started, I'd like to take this opportunity to do an acknowledgement of country. So Disability and Employment Australia acknowledges traditional owners of country throughout Australia and acknowledges their continued connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to people, the cultures, and the elders past, present and emerging. A little bit about Lunch and Learn sessions. So they're delivered by the Centre of Inclusive Employment in partnership with Disability Employment Australia. The Centre supports providers with practical resources, tools and training to help deliver high quality employment services for people with disability and employers. And DEA is the national peak body representing disability employment services providers. The Centre is delivered by a national consortium led by the University of Swinburne University of Technology, bringing together research, lived experience and sector expertise. A little bit of housekeeping for today's session. Live captions, and I think Liv's already put that in the chat, will be provided by Expressions Australia. Oh, there we go. That's in the chat. If you've got any questions during today's session, please feel free to use the Q&A function. We hope to have time at the end of the session to do a bit more of an interactive Q&A if we can. Today's session will be recorded and a transcript and slides will be available on an online hub. In today's session, our presenters Liz and Nicole, who you can see there on your screen in the top left-hand corner, will explore how to best support people living with mental health diagnosis to prepare for, find and maintain meaningful employment. It'll highlight the benefits of employment for people with mental health, key considerations when providing support throughout the employment journey, and the valuable role of collaborating with allied health support such as psychology, and I can never get this word right, dietetics, in promoting long-term success. Real-world case studies will bring the discussion to life and demonstrate practical, person-centered approaches that can make preparing for and finding work more accessible, sustainable and meaningful. About our speakers, so Liz is the General Manager of Employment Services for the ORS Group. Liz has worked for ORS for over 20 years in a variety of roles across employment services, mental health, disability employment, workplace rehabilitation and NDIS at both site, region, service area and national levels. And our second speaker, who I believe will be doing most of the talking, is Nicole Saliba, Growth and Partnerships Specialist at ORS Group. Nicole's a passionate, accredited practicing dietitian with a strong background in marketing and business development. Nicole is passionate about supporting individuals with mental health diagnoses and connecting them with services, whether it be employment or allied health, in order to help them overcome barriers, achieve goals, improve health, outcomes and quality of life. While I take a breath, it's over to Liz and Nicole. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon.
We're really excited to present today about mental health and meaningful employment and how we do things at ORS.
There we go.
All right, so a little bit of an agenda for today. We'll talk about who ORS is as an organisation, mental health and employment in Australia. Coming from an allied health background, I wanted to touch on the biopsychosocial model for mental health, which is a big mouthful. We'll touch on some of the benefits of employment for mental health, which I'm sure everyone is aware of. We'll touch on some key considerations when working with this cohort, and then we'll finish up with a case study and what we're doing at ORS to help collaborate with allied health supports. So who is ORS? ORS, despite being a large organisation with over 800 employees, is actually a family-owned and operated organisation. ORS was founded in WA, but we have offices all over Australia, and annually we provide support to over 20,000 Australians every year. We've got the allied health supports at ORS, which includes positive behaviour support, psychology, occupational therapy, speech pathology, dietetics, and workplace rehab. And in addition to that, we provide employment services, including Inclusive Employment Australia, under which we have a specialist mental health cohort, and as well as the NDIS Finding and Keeping a Job, which we'll touch on. There's multiple funding pathways to access our services at ORS, whether it's the NDIS, private allied health, or Medicare. And we believe this gives people flexibility and increased accessibility to access our services. So let's just touch on a quick snapshot of mental health and employment in Australia. And supporting people with mental health and employment is something we're very passionate about. So mental health challenges impact 1 in 5 Australians each year, and almost 1 in 2 of us will experience some form of mental health challenge throughout our life, with the most common being anxiety and depression. We know that people that experience mental health challenges are less likely to be employed than other people with a disability, and they're more likely to experience things like discrimination and stigma. If we look at employment rates, 26% of people living with a psychosocial disability are employed versus 57% of people living with other disabilities and 80% of people living without a disability. So coming from an allied health background, we know that when it comes to supporting people with mental health concerns, usually things like medication and psychological support from a psychologist would previously be our mainstays, but you know that there's lots of different factors impacting a person's mental health. And the biopsychosocial model, our lifestyle model, is a model that we're starting to adopt now when we look at treating and managing mental health. And we know that employment is a critical health intervention and also a meaningful outcome for people living with mental health conditions. So there's 4 different domains there. And in lay terms, it shows that mental health is not caused or improved by just one thing. And we've circled that employment is definitely key under that social framework under this model. So when we look at the benefits of employment for mental health, they're wide-ranging. So some of the evidence-based positive outcomes for employment for mental health, and they're things that we probably witnessed working with people every day, include enhanced self-esteem, financial stability, structured daily routines, improved self-reliance and confidence, social inclusion and improved community participation, reduced financial strain, and then from a health perspective, we've got improved symptom control, a reduced risk of hospitalisation, and improved recovery support. So yes, there's financial benefits, but there's widespread benefits in terms of health as well. So what are some of the key considerations when we're providing support to participants with mental health conditions? It's important to acknowledge that people experiencing mental health challenges are facing several barriers to employment, including discrimination and stigma, as well as a lack of coordinated supports, which is why we've adopted the model that we have at ORS. Symptoms can wax and wane, and there's lots of different things that can impact these, like medication side effects, past negative work experiences, and significant gaps in work history. And we know these can affect job readiness and confidence. We know that mental health rarely exists in isolation. People are also facing challenges with housing, finances, drug and substance abuse, and relationships. So coordinated support really matters. And we also know that recovery isn't linear, and neither is the path to employment. So the right supports matters more than the speed of the person's journey. So these are some of the key considerations. So we know that employment support is most effective when it's person-centred, strengths-based, and trauma-informed. And we'll just touch on a couple of these. So person-centred employment support focuses on placing the individual at the centre of all planning and decision-making, treating them as the expert in their own life rather than focusing primarily on their disability or their deficits. Key components include shared decision making, strengths-based profiling, and customized job matching. A strengths-based approach focuses on a person's existing abilities, skills, and potential rather than their deficits or limitations. And key features of this would be identifying a person's natural talents and their personal goals and fostering that collaborative planning alongside them. Trauma-informed support is also key. Trauma is a state of emotional distress that happens when a person experiences an event or a series of events where they are harmed, threatened, or feel threatened. And trauma also describes the longer-term impact of these events. So a trauma-informed approach recognises how common and profound the effects of trauma are, and it ensures that services and supports are delivered in ways that avoid causing further harm. Trauma-informed services are person-centred, responsive, and sensitive to the experiences of people without being intrusive about what led to that trauma. And the last thing that's really important, I think it's the most important thing, is integrated support. And integrated employment support combines job searching with wraparound services like allied health, mental health care, housing help, and skills training. And key elements include coordinated case management, multidisciplinary teams, and personalised long-term planning. So what are we doing at ORS to collaborate with allied health support? So Liz and I really believe that what sets us apart as a provider is our ability to provide integrated support. So being a multidisciplinary provider working across the IEA, NDIS and workplace rehab pathways, we're able to connect participants directly with our own psychology, dietetics and occupational therapy teams. To address those barriers to employment, and people can access that through different funding pathways. So some of the funding pathways that our employment participants are able to access our services are through Medicare, and the two key pathways that we'll touch on are Medicare Better Access, which some of us might know as the Medicare Mental Health Care Plan. And this essentially entitles people living with mental health concerns to up to 10 sessions per year with a psychologist. And at ORS, we're really proud to provide this service at no fee. So we bulk bill it for our IA participants, and we'll touch on what these sessions focus on. People living with a mental health condition are also able to access a chronic condition management plan, which entitles them to 5 visits with an allied health provider, such as a dietitian or occupational therapist. And for clients that come through that also have NDIS funding, there is a capacity building budget and a service called Finding and Keeping a Job, which provides vocational, functional, cognitive IQ and communication assessments, as well as on-the-job coaching for people that need more of those capacity building supports. And often we'll start with this for people that do have that funding that are quite employment ready, and where it's suitable and where the participant is ready, we might dual service them or directly register them into IEA. Our referrals are able to happen in-house, so allied health input can be coordinated, it's efficient, and we're all working towards the same goals. Do you want to add anything?
No, not yet.
So let's start with the Medicare Better Access psychology support. So we use this service for our IA participants where we feel like their anxiety or depression, trauma, low confidence or vocational uncertainty is impacting their capacity to find and keep a job. So how the referral works is the IA specialist might flag that there's some psychological barriers. We get the participant or client to get a Medicare Better Access referral from their GP, and then they're able to access the psychologist at ORS with no wait list, either face-to-face or via telehealth. And there's a range of things that a psychologist would cover throughout those sessions, which we'll touch on the next slide as well. And why it's really important, it's pretty self-explanatory, but we know that psychological support runs alongside, not instead of employment support. So progress in one area is really going to reinforce the other. These are, I won't go through every point, but these are some of the psychological barriers that the psychologist might work on alongside the IEA participant. So say, for instance, if we feel like their depression and anxiety symptoms are impacting their energy and leading to absenteeism or triggering job avoidance, we might work on that. We know that even though we've got a specialist mental health cohort, a large number of our IEA clients would have ADHD or ASD, these neurodevelopmental conditions. And we know that eating disorders are quite prevalent in this group. So if we feel like they've got irregular eating habits or any disordered eating behaviours that are impacting their energy or their capacity to concentrate, then the psychologist can work on that as well. There's also cognitive and motivational issues. So if they're struggling with low self-confidence, the psychologist can work on rebuilding that self-worth, reducing fear of failure or workplace stigma. So there's really a range of things our psychologists can help with, and it's all about providing practical strategies to help with that workplace participation.
Oh, sorry. Not very
You're
good at
stitching
this.
me up here. You've got
No.
one job, Liz. Then the Medicare Chronic Condition Management Plan. So I'm a dietitian by background, so I'm obviously biased, but very passionate about this area. So the IEA consultant would recommend the participant getting a chronic condition management plan if we felt like their nutrition or energy levels, disordered eating or medication side effects are affecting their capacity to obtain or sustain employment. And a large number of our clients would be on anti-anxiety or antipsychotic medications that have a whole range of side effects. Again, it's the IEA consultant flagging that there's some sort of nutrition-related barrier. They would coordinate that referral from the GP, and we've got no wait lists for dietetic support, either face-to-face or via telehealth. I'll touch on what we cover in the sessions on the next slide as well. But most people don't know this, but nutrition is one of the most important and modifiable risk factors in terms of supporting people with their mental health. So these are some of the things that we might work on with our participants. So if they're on a medication that is potentially impacting their appetite and they're not eating regularly, they've got really low energy, we can work on those types of things. We know that people living with mental health conditions have really increased rates of GI concerns. So they might not be able to go to an interview because stress exacerbates their gut concerns. We can work on those as well. It's also a big cause of absenteeism. There's medication side effects, and often people living with mental health concerns, they have a significantly increased risk of other chronic health conditions like diabetes that can also impact their mental health, their energy levels, and their capacity to show up at work.
That's it.
Yeah. Then we've got the same Medicare chronic condition management plans for OT support, and we've got a wonderful OT team at ORS. So it's for participants whose day-to-day functioning, energy routine, sensory tolerance, or task management is getting in the way of starting or sustaining employment. Same referral pathway that we've mentioned on, and they get up to those 5 sessions per year. And we know that practical functional support helps translate psychological and vocational progress into a job that a participant can physically and mentally sustain day to day. So these are some of the occupational barriers that the occupational therapist can work on alongside the client. So if they're struggling with structure and routine, we can help with that. Again, if we're supporting people that have things like ASD or ADHD alongside their mental health diagnoses, there might be sensory sensitivity. So they might be sensitive to noise or lighting or things that make the workspace hard for them to tolerate. And we can work on addressing those barriers as well. We'll also touch on the NDIS finding and keeping a job. So we're really fortunate to work at an organisation that we can tap into this pathway as well. But essentially, finding and keeping a job comes under the capacity building part of an individual's NDIS plan. Unfortunately, not enough people receive it, and it's more for people that aren't quite employment ready or ready for IEA and need more capacity building support. So they need help with building their capacity, skills, and confidence that they need to find and move into employment. The IEA consultant identifies the need for further capacity building, and we refer in-house. If a client isn't quite ready for IEA, they can just fill in our usual referral form on the ORS website. And it covers general capacity building and employment assistance, which can include vocational assessments to help explore suitable career pathways, functional assessments of capacity for daily and work-related tasks, cognitive and IQ assessments to identify strengths and support needs, and communication assessments to support confident, effective workplace communication. And we witnessed firsthand that this can be a great place for people to start before they move into IEA. Why it matters, because building the right supports early means job matching, workplace adjustments, and ongoing assistance are grounded in a clear understanding of the participants' needs. And on this next slide, we've just got a bit of a summary around the different assessments that we're able to provide under finding and keeping a job. I won't go through them. I'm sure everyone will get a copy of the slides and they're able to look into them. Did you want to elaborate on any of these, Liz?
No, not really. I will just add that generally how referrals for finding and keeping a job are coming through as just for the employment assistance. And then we get to have a look at their plans to see what type of supports they need. And that's when we would then refer out for the functional or the Vox or the cognitive assessments, just depending on their needs and what their goals are in their plan. Not all participants that come in through the finding and keeping a job pathway are going to be eligible for IEA because we are that specific mental health cohort. So obviously we would continue servicing them under the NDIS and help them into employment that way as well. So yeah, it really depends on what, I suppose, what the clients need and what they're eligible for, and also the type of IEA program that you're providing as well. Oh yeah, you do this.
Yeah. So we thought we'd finish with a case study that we'll call David. So a bit of background: workplace anxiety significantly affected David's concentration, memory, task completion, and confidence. In terms of his employment history, he'd previously regularly secured employment but struggled to sustain roles. And after each job that he'd been let go from, there was an increasing level of anxiety there. He connected with one of our wonderful IEA consultants and commenced as a TAFE customer service provider earlier this year. And he initially reported feeling excluded in the workplace. He was overthinking workplace interactions and wanted to quit. He felt that he was working slowly and making mistakes, and it was really eroding his confidence, and he was experiencing these emotional meltdowns. So in terms of early intervention, he got weekly post-placement support, lots of opportunities to debrief and guidance to focus on work tasks, and reassurance about just letting his workplace relationships develop organically or naturally. And the IEA consultant identified pretty early on in the piece that he would benefit from seeing a psychologist to address some of these concerns. So he accessed one of the Medicare Better Access psychology plans in April to address things like his anxiety, his unhelpful thinking patterns, and workplace barriers that were able to sustain him in employment. And he completed the whole 10 sessions. He was also linked in with the dietitian. He was on some medications that were impacting his appetite, his low energy, and he was having some gut complaints that were exacerbated by his workplace anxiety, and we worked on those. We also worked on, the psychologist worked on monitoring his thinking styles, addressing any barriers encountered, and encouraging him to use workplace resources. And we're really happy to report that he's progressing very well. He's reached 6 months of employment, and he's concluded his psychology and dietetic sessions. But in this case, the IEA consultant was really adamant that she felt without psychological support and dietetic support that he probably wouldn't have sustained and maintained that employment. So yeah, that's just one of the amazing examples that we have coming through of that coordinated multidisciplinary support. That's us. Has anyone got any questions?
While people are thinking of a question, I'll fire one at you. So so this is obviously a great example of what ORS can do with all that kind of in-house support. But I'm assuming that these types of supports are available to people that are outside of the ORS group. The only difference would be wait lists and those types of things. So you could potentially get this level of support if you weren't being supported by ORS's specialist IEA program, but the issue would be that it would take a while because of wait lists, etc.
Yeah, it depends on the discipline as well. So psychology has got immediate availability. Generally, it's speech and OT where there's a bit of a wait list, but it also depends on the site. So we do have availability on our website about where we have capacity, and generally if it's telehealth, we don't really have a wait list for that at all, because most people want face-to-face, particularly for things like, you know, speech and OT. Yeah, but on the website, it has all of our availability. If anybody wants to refer someone through, if you come directly to me or Nick, we can try and push up the wait list a bit as well.
If you'd like to refer to ORS, we've got immediate capacity for psychology and dietetics, but I think even just a bit of research in your local area, usually there's a lot of dietitians and psychologists with like capacity. It's probably just curating your own list. And I guess like my hope for this talk was for people just like to think outside the box of employment and tap into these other services to help people like with their journey through IEA.
And if you're working for an IEA provider and, you know, there's a sister company or someone under your organisation that you are providing the NDIS, tap into those services for your IEA clients. It's a really, I mean, we're very blessed here. We're very lucky that we do everything, basically, all allied health services we can provide. We can even tap into other staff in our workplace rehab and health area that are rehab counsellors or physios, EPs. We've got such a broad range of experience here. So find out, you know, at your organisations what else they do outside of your area, because it's great to be able to tap into those. There's questions.
Yeah. So
I did see one from Jack about Mascot. Yes, we do have a site in Mascot. Oops,
maybe
I've got to
slide
click on
up
the
a
screen.
bit.
I've missed a couple.
So
yes, ORS Group is in Mascot. Yep, that's Carl and Mukesh.
Do you support people employed who aren't on NDIS or part of an IEA provider but require support? If you're talking about psychological support, we do.
Yeah.
And the fees are on our website. Like, unfortunately, we don't bulk bill anyone else outside of IEA, so there is an out-of-pocket cost, but maybe we can send them through to Olivia and she can send them through to people.
So if you've got someone that's employed and they're not on the NDIS or part of IEA,
does that mean
you could look at a work assist direct registration into IEA if they're eligible. Obviously, it depends on if they're employed. If their job is obviously in jeopardy and they may be at risk of losing their job, then you can look at work assist. But yeah, we do also do private referrals as well. So for psychology, the rate is $256.99 an hour. OT speech is $193.99 an hour. But yeah, it's got all of the details on our website.
But yes, Rachel, if someone gets a mental health care plan outside of IEA, there is an out-of-pocket cost, but we can send that through to Olivia, including the gap fee.
Yeah.
There's more questions scrolling.
Oh, Olivia's put our locations. Thank you. Sorry if this was a given. Will these presentation slides be available for review afterwards? Yes.
That's the next one.
Yeah. So if someone was currently experiencing similar delays or lacking support going into PPS OS and works in the industry, but would simply like to chat in order to see if these services will be beneficial.
These services are only provided to people like IEA participants with ORS.
Yes. The Medicare services are available for our ORS IEA participants.
Otherwise, we can help them, Jack, but there'd be an out-of-pocket cost. Marley's got 2 questions.
Marley, thank you for the presentation. Great. Oh, thank you. 2 questions. Do you also help people to get accepted onto the NDIS? Are we talking about IEA participants or just people coming in and wanting to apply for the NDIS? If so, then no, we don't really help them to apply for the NDIS. There are, though, supports available in the community to help with that. I know a lot of planners.
Yeah.
There are a lot of supports
Unless
out
they
there that specifically help people
Yes.
apply.
And so people often come to us to ask for reports to help apply for the NDIS, whether it's like a functional assessment with a OT or a cognitive assessment with a psychologist, but there is an out-of-pocket cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tasmania, we used to have back in the old DES days, we used to have mainstream and DES in Tasmania, but we don't at the moment. Look, we're always looking at getting bigger, so maybe in the near future.
I wouldn't mind moving to Tassie for a bit.
It's cold though. Just warning. Hey Hugh, yes.
We are an IEA, so
Yeah.
no cost.
Omnia.
So yeah, the no cost, no gap services are only for IEA clients being serviced at ORS, not external providers. Sorry. Yeah.
But Omnia can look also at providing Medicare. So if I'm not sure on the full range of services with Omnia, but Omnia's, aren't you mental health cohort as well, Rachel? I believe Omnia or Octet. Maybe it's Octet. But yes, you could look at, I'm not sure what Omnia is doing in terms of their services, but they would need to register for Medicare and then obviously get the staffing to be able to do that. But
in terms of Kathy, your client on the Sunshine Coast, maybe you could inquire about a specialist mental health provider. Otherwise, like you could just Google like a local psychologist, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're not in the Sunshine Coast. We are looking at getting everywhere. We've just got to wait for the opportunity. But there are, there are pretty much everywhere in each employment services area. There are providers that specialise in the mental health cohort. So if you just have a look on the Workforce Australia website and you just type in the specialist mental health cohort, when you're searching for a provider, it will come up with a lot of them. Can you assist IEA participants with evidence for applying for the disability pension? I mean, if they're a participant of ours, and like we can do a letter of support, there is that's required for that disability support pension application. So we can do those. If we have provided them with any type of services, so Medicare or any other types of assessment, we would incorporate that in our letter of support. So yes, to a degree, obviously we can't do it for them, but we can help them with their application and see if there's supporting evidence that they need for that.
Jack, we can definitely support your people that you're seeing if they've got NDIS funding, but there would be a cost for people that aren't on the NDIS, but again, we'll send them through.
Yeah. So if a participant already has their employment but need to transition into a different role in the organisation, can employment consultants communicate with participants' employers to approve additional support like a mentor? Yeah, but they would just need to be registered with an IEA provider. They may need to come in if their job is at risk and they need to move into another job with that same company. They can register as work assist, and we can help them in setting that up with their employer. So that would be through IEA. IEA and NDIS are very different. So the supports that we can offer under both differ, and so is the funding structure. So obviously with IEA, we are funded to provide specifically that employment assistance. It's all about getting them back to work. Under the IEA, we're offering the free bulk billed Medicare sessions. If they're coming in under the NDIS, obviously we're paid by the NDIS for providing that service, which would be dependent on what the stated supports are and the funding that they've got in their plan. So like if anybody has any clients in particular that they want us to take a look at their NDIS plans or anything, happy to have a look at them and then see, if you let me know what type of support they're looking for, I'm happy to have a look in their plans and just break them down a little bit, because they are very confusing in terms of the stated supports and IDL and behaviour support and improved relationships and everything in there. So it is very complicated, but happy to have a look at some and
we don't
provide any feedback.
Yeah. we don't service remotely.
Not for IEA. No. For NDIS, we can do telehealth. So we can basically do that all around the country. But yeah, IEA is just specific for our 15 sites. So we've got Coburg and Mount Waverley in Victoria. And then we've got Fishwick and Mitchell in ACT, Corrimal, which is near Wollongong. And then we've got Lane Cove, Mascot, Fairfield East, Gosford, Wyong, New Lambton. And then in WA, we've got Stirling, Jandakot, Morley and Mandurah. So they're all of our IEA sites. So we've got, if we've got support coordinators or anybody out there that's looking to refer some of their participants through for IEA services, they're all of our sites. And then for NDIS, we have another 7 sites sort of around the same sort of location. So we don't have anything at the moment in Queensland, South Australia, Northern Territory or Tasmania, but all of the other sites.
And that's all the questions. If anyone's got any inquiries or follow-up questions, happy for you guys to reach out to me, and Olivia can, or Liz. We'll pop our email in there, and we'll try our best to answer your questions.
Yeah, but it is a complicated beast, I think. But yeah, being a provider that does all of it is handy because it gives us insight into all of the areas and how then we can sort of tailor our service. So any participants looking for work or allied health services, we can generally do it all. It's just how we do it, whether it's NDIS, IEA, and what their goals are as well. We might have people who want to come into IEA but actually don't want to work for another 3 years. You know, they're on the NDIS, so let's use that 3 years to build their capacity to get them ready for work. So we sort of look at each referral case by case and go from there and tailor our service that way.
Okay. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Liz. And just to repeat that, everyone, so we will send through a copy of the presentation, a copy of the transcript as well, and we'll make sure that we've got Liz and Nicole's details on there should anyone wish to reach out and contact them directly.
Yeah.
We will be putting up just a short poll as well at the end of this before everyone disappears, so we appreciate if you could take 30 seconds to fill that out. That would be fantastic. For those of you familiar with DEA's CPD system, there is 2 CPD points that you can log for attending today's session. So make sure you get on there and do that. And also just need to remind you that our next session coming up in 2 weeks' time is Understanding Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder in the Workplace, and that's delivered on Wednesday, the 26th of August. So thank you once again, Nicole. Thank you once again, Liz, for a really insightful, fantastic session. I think we kind of peaked there at about 187 people. So you've kind of, I think that's the highest we've had for a little period of time. Lots of really useful information, and we'll make sure that we get those resources out. So to everyone, if you can just complete that survey for us just quickly before you go, that would be greatly appreciated. And for everyone else, we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, Simon.
Thanks.
Thanks, Olivia.